and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Elise Quevedo. Today I am back with Edwin Diender, Chief Digital Transformation Officer and Vice President of the Global Government and Public Sector of the Enterprise Business Group at Huawei. Hi Edwin, great to see you again. How are you?
Hey Elise, great to see you too, and thank you for having me once more.
Not a problem. It's been a few weeks since we last spoke. And Edwin, we are near the end of this exclusive video recap of your latest blog series on smart and intelligent cities. So before we focus on blog number 5, give us a good summary of what we have learned so far over the last 4 blogs, which is also something that you recap this time.
Yes, I thought it was important to go back a few steps in time just to understand where do we come from and where does the current piece of this continuous 6 series of blog posts relate to. The first post was about the concept of the universal framework for smart city construction, which I tried to visualize by using the Rubik's Cube, where pieces can move independently without breaking up that structure. I think that's a perfect metaphor and a very good analogy for a framework. Pieces that can move independently without breaking a structure is exactly what I think are the pieces in a smart or a connected city framework. They are also built around and with and are using pieces that have their own characteristics that are so unique and have their own personality sometimes even, but also their own metric, their own mechanisms, their own policies perhaps. But they do have to work together. They do come together and meet in the middle. So a universal framework for smart city construction was the first part visualized by a cube. Then I moved into what does that do for city managers? What is the role of e-governance and how does that evolve? So that was the second part. And then I tried to move into the idea of not having a smart city, but thinking of an intelligent city, a city that thinks with you. And what does that do for the ecosystem within that system? And how do industries blend in and converge and make use of it? And that's the middle of the blog posts. And then we moved a little onwards to why enterprises cannot compete on their own. This is not a one-off. This is not a one organization, one thing kind of game. This is integrated and converged. This is all together and together for all. So why enterprises cannot compete on their own is, I've tried to explain in the blog post thereafter. And then we move into how intelligent cities will evolve into a connected city ecosystem, which is where we are right now. Why one connected city basically is not a connected city. And I took this from my grandma. My grandma at Easter would cook eggs and she would cook too much. So she would always say, guys, for Easter, let's not have 1 egg because 1 egg is not an egg. 2 eggs is half an egg. 3 eggs, that's a full egg. In her way of saying, you need to have a minimum of 3 eggs because I cook too much. And I thought one connected city is not a connected city was a good analogy for that as well. So that's where we are right now.
Wow, thank you for that, Edwin. What a recap. And to be honest, I cannot believe we've done 4 already and that we're near towards this end. So then let's get to number 5, which, as you just said, it is titled, Why One Connected City is Not a Connected City. And you use Thailand as a focus this time, since this is where you have been for the last few months during COVID-19. You talk about a single digital agenda as part of a bigger picture. Can you tell us what you mean by that?
Absolutely. You know, and it's not just about Thailand. I used Thailand as an example because I was in the middle of all these developments and all these changes, not only because of a pandemic, but also from a professional and an organizational, and even from a personal point of view. So many different things around me were changing, including the way I did and the way I do my job. And that also goes for governments. So I used an example of Thailand, but there are many examples so similar to Thailand. Thailand is one example in Southeast Asia, but every country in Southeast Asia could be used for this example. And that also goes for the European Union or any country worldwide. There are so many countries. I would say every country has a digital agenda or has an item that relates to digital transformation, and they have agendized it. It's an item on a calendar. And some of those countries have a digital agenda that describes very detailed and very extensively what kind of programs and what kind of initiatives they try to put in place, they try to move forward with, and they try to help drive the digital agenda when it comes to digital transformation in this particular case. Other countries don't, but they do have an item in their calendars, so to speak. So project calendars, if you like. And my example for Thailand, as I said, is universal. Many initiatives relate to economic developments, public services, social, education, healthcare, and what have you. So what I try to point out was that even though you could see these as standalone initiatives, they are all listed in separate paragraphs, right? And they are all listed in separate chapters, but they are part of one integrated document, maybe even a mini site on a web portal, or one digital agenda that makes it part of a bigger picture, if you like. And that's what I try to get across with this particular part. So as such, a digital agenda, even though not initiated or not established as that, could be considered a document that combines and that brings together all programs and initiatives. And this particular digital agenda, even though it's separate items, is one digital agenda. And that could be a travel guide that helps us through this digital journey that I've talked about before. And that's the point I try to get across with this particular item.
Wow, Edwin, thank you so much once again. And I love how you're able, as always, to paint a picture. And in this case, when you talk about the independent pieces that coming together, it's also about the Rubik's Cube, which is something that, of course, you referred to this time and how we started this blog series. So I love how cohesive this whole series have been as we come to these last two ones. Then let's dive deeper into this. And something else that you say this time is that the ultimate goal of digital transformation is to equip cities with a digital brain. Explain to us how this can be done.
Well, let's go back to the principle of the digital brain and a nervous system, actually. I always link these two together. To me, they are one and they go forward as one. So a digital brain and a nervous system are the tip of a pyramid, if you like, which could be reflected as a hierarchy of needs in connected cities. So the tip of this pyramid, the tip of this hierarchy of needs is a digital brain and a nervous system. They help city managers to be more efficient, for example, in the daily operation of city management. And they help provide predictive analytics and insights to further anticipate as connected cities progress and develop and move on. Also, I often speak about a platform and then not the technical platform, because that's clear, but there's also a principle of a platform that allows us to link and connect different programs and initiatives. And such platform, as I position it, is a horizontal layer. So it overlays and it bridges, for example, different information silos. And in my view, that would be a very good way to start, to come back to your question, how to move forward or where to start. Leverage what we already, or what already works best, and then use technology to allow us to do better what we already do best. I think that is where a brain and a nervous system as core capabilities of a platform, a digital platform, also the principle of a platform, can overlay these information silos, can pull up what really already works very well. And as we move on, we improve and we do better what we already do best. That's how I think we should start.
Wow, powerful insights there. Then I have a follow-up question to this. What are the biggest challenges you see for implementation to happen?
Well, we've talked about this before as well. There are legacy systems. There are existing principles, technology in there with certain technology stacks that are not always on par. So having a platform that can or a principle of a platform that overlays these stovepipes, so to speak, and that breaks the silos or breaks the walls between these silos is still a challenge. So silos and information stovepipes are a challenge. Initiatives that will make technology look good, an ego boost of one project in a certain city advertised so high up to the value chain that everybody says, wow, that is a great initiative, but it doesn't really work very well for a smart or a connected city. The only thing what it does, it works for itself. Again, a silo is another example where I would say it really doesn't scale or live up. I think where it really should drive forward to, and what it should anticipate and what it should enable, is it should be about people. It should be about livelihood, and that requires leadership, that requires a vision, the ability and the willingness to execute, but most importantly, strong technology partnerships and funding and financing baselines. Because the approval processes today to move forward in such principles in most countries worldwide are still analog, are still paper. They have a huge red tape around it. It's a paper trail. If anything that doesn't work well today in digital transformation is the paper trail that it has for authentication, authorization, and approval of investments, approval of going forward, approval to start at a certain day. And that brings me to another part that I've talked before in another blog, which is where Einstein says time is relative, and where I debate, be that as it may, but it should be about more relative. Time is relative. Time is relevant. Time is not relevant. Time is not relative. Time is relative. The urge is now. Momentum is now. And a paper trail that slows everything down really is not very much of this time. Relevance is now.
Wow, I do love two of the things that stand out for me. It's actually what you just said at the end. Is kind of time for action. That's kind of the summary that I've taken, and that the focus has to be on people, not actually the technology always. These are tools, these are things that help our lives be better, but the focus should never move away to what is best for people.
Clearly, and there's many types of people if you think about it. It's not just people who live in a city, because that's eminent, right? Of course it's about people living in a city, but what about people passing through? There are so many people living in one city, passing through another city to go to work into yet another city, or the way back, or to go to a hospital, or to go to the head office or the branch office of a bank, which is not in your city, but a city further up or down the road. There are so many different shapes and forms of the label of people, so to speak, where usually urban development, city planners, and city managers do not really take notice of, because for them, this is my city. And for the people in my city, and the rest are just guests. You know, you're a guest in my house, so act as one. One connected city is not a connected city.
Wow. Again, once again, thinking outside of the box, this is what we can always expect for sure from Mr. Diender. So then, time to summarize this all. What is your one key takeaway or summary in regards why one connected city is not a connected city?
One connected city is not a connected city for a simple principle that sits in the wording already. Where does one connected city by itself connects to? Nothing? Something? What is that something? So if it's able to connect, it's clearly not one connection. So one connected city is not a connected city. There is not one company, one initiative. It's not a one city game. We are already connected. We're connected, what I said before, via a universal infrastructure that is allowing pieces to move independently without breaking that structure. And as such, one connected city is not a connected city. It is symbiotic. It is linked by that structure to other systems and services. My earlier example, I think, also explains it. People moving through cities are just as much part of that city for the time they move through as everybody else who lives in the city, works in the city, and never leaves that city?
Well, I think this is one of those questions that is gonna leave many people asking themselves that and trying to follow you on and say, is that right? What else is connected? Because as individuals, we can only achieve as always so much, but we need things and people and tools. And a lot of people don't really understand that connectivity. Connectivity normally is related to technology or to internet, but connectivity means so much more. And even like you said, the cities, the people. So this question, to be honest, could actually be a whole video of its own, because there are so much that we could dig deep into this subject, but I think we'll leave that for next time. So the last question that I have for you then, Edwin, today is, what can we look forward to blog number 6?
Well, I hinted already a little bit about a hierarchy. So my next blog, the last blog of this 6 series of blogs and publications on the universal framework for intelligent city construction, visualized by a cube, is about the hierarchy of needs for connected cities. And I can tell you a little bit about it. If you look at a cube is a square, right? But if I put a cross in the middle of that square, I got 4 triangular shaped shapes. That's a pyramid. That's a hierarchy. That's a hierarchy of needs. So each building block, as square as it is built with 4 different pyramid shapes. And each of those pyramids is a hierarchy of needs. So that's what the last blog will be about in this series of the Universal Framework for Smart City and Intelligent City Construction.
Wow, I wonder how many people are gonna go and get a Rubik's Cube now and try to do the triangle thing. I may need to go and get one myself. Now, what a great way it's going to be to end the series, Edwin. I look forward, of course, to reading this one and doing our last recap on this series, although I am sure we will find other topics to discuss. So once again, another great video chat, powerful insights as always, shared on a topic that continues to be very relevant in our technology world. This is Elise Quevedo. Until next time, thank you, Edwin.